These rocky shores where I call home, where my heart longs to be. Whenever I roam, it's these rocky shores, it's where I long to be. Yes, it's these rocky shores, they are home to me.
Whenever I leave here, it hurts me so, with tears in my eyes. Oh, I hate to go. There ain't no work, and the kids need new clothes. The bills need paying, so off I must go.
These rocky shores, where I call home, where my heart longs to be. Whenever I roam, yes, these rocky shores, it's where I long to be. Yes, these rocky shores, they're home to me.
I think to myself, where did it all go? The life I once had on the ocean's mighty road. With tears in my eyes and my head in my hands, away from my family, I hope they understand.
That is these rocky shores, where I call home, it's where my heart longs to be. Whenever I roam, yes, these rocky shores, where I long to be. Yes, these rocky shores, they are home to me. Yes, these rocky shores, they are home to me.
Good evening. Welcome to This Week in Review. Tonight's stories include: recreational cod fishery was open for this weekend, tender was awarded for air quality renovations at our local schools, 3 proposals have been submitted under the Post Tags program, Park Place residents are not pleased with conditions in that area. These stories plus community events, BBS Playbill, Off the Rack, and more coming up after this.
Meet Gregory, a very active 5-year-old. He is the proud owner of artificial legs designed for swimming, thanks to donations to the War Amps Champ program. As Gregory grows up, Champ will be there to meet his special needs, replacing his artificial limbs as he gets bigger, counseling, and the chance to meet other amputees his own age. The War Amps, making the system work for child amputees.
A tender to carry out renovations at A.J. Matthews School and St. John Central High was awarded earlier this past week. Early in 1998, the air quality was tested at both schools here in Burgeo. The results of these tests identified problems at both schools. At A.J. Matthews School, further testing had to be carried out in the primary wing as a result of a fungus being identified in the grade 4 classroom. Once that test was completed, more problem areas were identified. As a result, all students in grades kindergarten through grade 6 will register in the elementary section of the school this Tuesday. All classes will be housed in that section of the building until renovations to correct the fungus problem in the primary wing are completed. It is estimated that this work should take about a month. At St. John Central High, a fungus problem was identified in the school's science lab. To be exact, the wall in the back room of the laboratory, which is adjacent to the guidance office. The only classes which will be affected during the renovation period at the high school are the science classes wishing to utilize the science lab. Work on renovations at both schools are scheduled to begin within a week or so. 3 proposals for job creation programs under the post-tags program have been submitted to HRD. I spoke with Sam Morgan, Development Officer with the Burgeo Diversification and Development Board, about the proposals. Sam, I understand that the Burgeo Diversification and Development Board plays an important role in sending out 3 proposals for projects under the post-tags program?
Yeah, Dave, that's correct. We've got 3 gone off. As you know, last Wednesday we had a meeting with reps from HRDC, and Tom Hutchings from the Red Board, the Long Range Red Board, was there, and so was Mark Felix from the Provincial Department of Development and Rural Renewal. What we've done is, just to give you a little brief history of what happened, is last Wednesday, which was August the 19th, we had a meeting that night that brought together our board and our mayor and a few business people, just a few people from around town, and we met, and basically it was just to talk about the post-tags program, the components under it, but more importantly was the term job creation program. And what we've done is we sort of had a brainstorming session that tried to identify some types of initiatives, projects that could be, proposals could be developed for within a short period of time and submit it and turn around on a relatively quick period of time so we get people back to work. As a follow-up to that, last Thursday, on the 20th, they had 4 sessions throughout the day that involved the different former and current tags recipients. And as a part of that, what we did, from my perspective, was myself, Tom, and Mark, at the end of each session, we would basically put the same question to the session, to the people that were at that session, was, are there any ideas that you can think of or identify that we can work on that we can generate relatively quickly so we can get people back to work? Now, to qualify that, I should add that one of the first things identified Wednesday night of last week was, let's put people back to work, let's do some stuff with our fish plant. The unfortunate part of that is that as a part of the criteria that they've attached to this term job creation program is that there's no proposal that's linked to primary fish processing is eligible. So in other words, in the short of that, what that means is that unless you have a proposal developed as a private enterprise or to do with some fish plant facility, as if it deals specifically with secondary products. So I guess having said that, what I'm saying to you is our hands are a bit tied with regards to trying to develop a proposal with that plant because it's not under our ownership. So what we had to do last week was to try and convince ourselves and convince the people that came to each session was, if at all possible, as tough as it is and as hard as it may be to do, was to try and block the fish plant out for a moment, out of your mind, and say, okay, what can we do in Burgeo that get people back to work, and it can be done in a short period of time. Now, the whole concept behind these initiatives, and this is something I guess people shouldn't be, there shouldn't be any false expectations here. This is not permanent jobs we're creating here. What we've been sort of mandated to do now is to try and create some, for the lack of a better term, we're going full circle here, back to the days of make work projects. What we have to try and do is create projects in the short term, relatively quickly, that we can get people back to work, which gives them their EI stamps, and at the end of the day, they can apply for EI. And right now, that's what we're in the process of doing. So as a result of that, yes, I've got 3 proposals developed, and I faxed them in yesterday, and the HRDC representatives, ACOA representatives, Department of Development, Rural Renewal, and the Long Range Red Board, they're meeting as we talk. They're meeting today, which is Thursday. They're meeting today to discuss them. And I've got meetings in Robinson and Steve Mill tomorrow, And I'm hoping and HRDC representatives are going to be at that meeting, so I'm hoping I can get some feedback as early as tomorrow on whether or not they're going to approve those 3 proposals.
Okay, so can you tell us what the 3 proposals were?
Sure. And again, I want to reiterate that what we did, this is a result of what we done last week, the steps we took. What we done is we brainstormed with the session on Wednesday night and each session after on Thursday. Then what we done is we met last Thursday night as a board here at the Town Council Chambers, and we invited Mark Felix, Tom Hutchings, and Brian House of HRDC to attend, for the simple fact that I felt, because the main objective of our meeting last Thursday night was to look at the ideas that have been generated and say, okay, what proposals can be done quickly with minimum requirements? In other words, you don't have to go through government services for a permit for this, or you don't have to get a lease for this. I mean, the most that would be involved with those are probably a permit from the town, which would be a relatively quick process. So based on that, that's what we've done. And the reason we had Brian House and Tom and Mark there is because there are 3 of the individuals that are going to be assessing those proposals. So what we thought we'd do with those individuals present, identify the projects that they think have a chance of being approved. Otherwise, I could spend my time developing proposals that once they get in there are just going to be rejected. So based on that, the 3 we came up with, I've got one developed and submitted for the ski trail / converted into a walking trail. So in other words, be a ski trail by winter, a walking trail by during the summer. And basically, this one is more labor intensive than it is anything else, because I mean there's not a lot of materials needed for that. I mean the rental of some equipment like chainsaws and that sort of thing, and maybe some fill for the more bogged areas along the way, but mostly it'll be cutting of stumps and roots and clearing a path, maybe even extending the trail to other areas that perhaps produce a better view of the seacoast, because that seems to be the norm nowadays. So we sort of tried to take I guess with this one anyway, more particularly a tourism slant, because they sort of said, yes, we want short-term projects, but we still want them to have some type of long-term benefits to the community. So I guess what we're saying is we looked at trying to look at what we could get in the system quick. So the ski trail is one. We submitted another one that would see the old ball field, basically the fencing taken down and redone with 4 feet high wire fencing around the sides, and the outfield would be 8 feet high. Repairs to the backstop, new dugouts, sodding, landscaping, infill redone, this sort of thing, sandboxing, etc., a few other things. So that one's done, the Burgess softball field, we've titled it, and then basically we've done another one for renovations, repairs, or improvements to the outdoor hockey rink. And the outdoor hockey rink, again, is probably pretty labor intensive in that we're proposing to completely resurface the area, the concrete surface. And I guess it's, I just want to say that this would have no bearing on an upcoming event to be held in the near future about our proposal for the community/education complex. That's just because under that we're going after an arena, but improvements right now to this facility won't hinder that, because I mean that's probably a couple of years in the makings anyway for the complex. And as an end result, I mean, we may always be able to find use if we're successful. Again, it all depends on whether or not they approve it, but we may, as an end result, if we're successful in doing this, it may serve as some other facility, i.e. skateboarding or something like that at the end of the day, if we are successful in getting our complex. So those are the 3 proposals that went in as of yesterday, and they're having a meeting in there today to discuss them.
Okay, so how many, if those 3 proposals were approved, how many people would that employ?
Well, I think it's 67 in total. I think I can check it for you. I can just we've applied for, under the renovations, repairs to the outdoor rink, we've applied for 30 individuals. And under the Burgess softball field, we've applied for 16 individuals, which, okay, that's 36 46. And under the ski trail, walking trail, we've applied for 1, 2, 3, 21. So it's 67, right? Wasn't sure on my math, Dave. But yeah, so those are 67, but ultimately, I mean, it's going to be HRDC once they do the evaluation of those proposals, what they give me. So 67 we've applied for.
So they might actually, like say, for instance, with the ski trail, they might approve the project, but instead of giving you 21 workers, they might only give you 15.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, that's a possibility. And but with the ski trail, I'd be very surprised if they do that, because it's basically very little in the way of material costs. So I mean, it's strictly labor. Mostly, for the most part, it's labor that they're looking at, right? So, but again, you're right. That's a good example that they may come back and say, no, Sam, we don't think that warrants 21 people. It warrants more like 15. And that being the case, I can only try and make a counter case to that and say, no, we need the 21. And so we'll see. We'll have to wait and see what feedback I receive.
Okay, so if these projects are approved, how early could we see them work actually begin?
Well, I guess when I submitted the 3 proposals, I put a start date of September 1st, which may or may not be realistic, depending on, I guess, what side of the table you're sitting on when you look at it. But based on what was said at the sessions last week by the HRDC people, they said, look, if Sam can generate some ideals, or not so much ideals, because the people generated the ideals, if Sam could basically generate the proposals and get them into the system by Wednesday of this week, which was yesterday, and I did because I faxed them in yesterday evening. So they have them for today. So they're evaluating them today. So there's no reason we couldn't, have feedback on them by tomorrow when I go to Stephenville. So I guess September 1, which is only next week, may be a little bit unrealistic. But if they approve them, I mean, we're certainly talking early September.
Okay, so are names being taken right yet for people who want to apply for these positions?
Not yet, Dave, because number one is we don't know, I mean, how many jobs are going to come back. And when they do come back, I suspect what will happen is we'll be utilizing the Outreach Employment Office. In other words, job postings, I guess, they'll be posted through the Outreach Employment Office. They'll be taking names, and I guess then upon the deadline being reached, then the names are turned over to, I guess, over the sponsoring body is for the projects. Now, that's another thing that I should touch on. There's been no set hiring procedure put in place yet or process. The only thing we've been told as of now, and unless I find out something different tomorrow, but all we've been told right now is that the priority status right now is being put onto the individuals that came off tags before August 29, 1998. We have no idea if HRD, when they say that, if they're talking about individuals that came off May up to August, or if they're talking about people that came off February. I don't know. I mean, hopefully I'll be able to find some of the stuff out tomorrow. But all we're being told is that it's people that came off before August 29th. That's right now the priority. So I guess based on that, now having said that, the names will come in obviously, and first thing will have to be done, I guess they'll have to be sorted who came off before August 29th or by August 29th, or before August 29th actually, because August 29th I guess everybody's off. Then what hiring practice or procedure, once you determine that, we haven't been told yet, whether or not then you look at need, or whether you look at, whether it's going to be a procedure or a system whereby we say, okay, this person came off, he's been off longest, or she's been off longest, so they have, this is the kind of finer details we haven't been given yet. We've been given, quote, a blanket statement saying priority status goes on people that came off before August 29th. So those are things we still have to work out.
Okay, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, I guess other than, like I said, I have concerns about the fact that we don't yet, where we haven't been given basically, and maybe it's going to be left to us. Maybe it's going to be left to us to decide how the hiring practice or procedure goes. I'm not sure. If so, I mean, obviously that's going to be a contentious issue, I think. But again, people will have to bear with us that our main objective here is to try and get people back to work and get them their stamp so they can apply for EI. Again, not to be fooled, I mean, we're not looking at permanent jobs here. I mean, we can call this what we want, or we can, you know, put as many faces to it as possible, but the bottom line is basically, for all intent and purposes, it's make work projects that we've been mandated now to create for the short term, and so that's what we're going to be about doing. If in the meantime people have any suggestions for ideals for projects that they might want to see happen and that might have some long-term benefits for the community, or because sometimes the best ideas are the ideas that never get identified. So we've got a list that's been developed because of last week, but it's a list that we continue to build upon. So if somebody's got an ideal, I mean, they don't have to tell me who they are. They can call this office and simply say, here's what I think should happen. I mean, I don't need to know their name or anything like that. And I guess the other thing is, I mean, it doesn't have to go through this office. This is the other part of it. You know, the eligible sponsors are service organization, municipalities, private enterprise, probably to their best interests, even if it's another service group that wants to do their own proposal, you know, then that's fine, but it might be beneficial to them to perhaps run it by me first. That way I can touch base with the individuals that are going to be assessing the proposals, and I can find out from them, get some feedback from them that tells me whether or not, you know, they think it can fly, or whether they think it's so out in left field that it's not going to work. At least I can pass that information on to the individuals if they want to do their own proposal. If not, by all means, phone here, give us the ideals, and we'll try we'll try and work with what we have and see what we can get approved and what can be done. I think that pretty well sums it up. But again, as far as hiring practice, I don't know what's going to happen there yet. Obviously, there's going to have to be something worked out, but I don't. Right now, I don't know what it is. The only thing I know is priority status is going to the people that came off before August 29th. There has been, I've already had some inquiries about, well, you know, HRD said it's not only for tags people, but it's also for others. And this is true, they did say that. But I think the example that's been cited by HRDC is that if you've got a particular project that you've been identified and it's been approved, and you have a particular skill that you need an individual to have on that project, and nobody that has applied that's a tags former or current tags recipient that has that particular skill, then yes, you can by all means go outside the former or current tags recipient. So again, that's the only criteria we've been given to that. So yes, on the one hand, they've said yes, we can go outside the tags people, but you have to qualify that with, here is the only circumstance or particular circumstance you can use to go outside that particular criteria.
Okay, well, we'd like to thank you for updating us, and hopefully we'll see some work on these proposals get started in the very near future. Stay with us. There's more of This Week in Review still to come.
Some people think that cystic fibrosis just makes it hard for kids to breathe. We could live with that. The truth is, CF is slowly shutting down my daughter's lungs and choking off her life. Imagine watching your child live like that and die like that. But today, your help is leading to great discoveries and finally giving me real hope. Please don't let CF take Cassandra away from me. You can help keep us together for life.
We were contacted earlier this past week by some residents of Park Place who are not happy with the conditions around their property. Park Place looks like any other street in Burgeo, but it's not the looks that have residents upset, at least not the looks in front of their homes. But high tides bring with them a lot of waste from the plant which lodges in the mud hole behind the trailer court. This waste brings with it a not so nice odor which prevents residents from even opening their windows. Residents furthest down in the trailer court are also concerned with flooding. Water levels are known to rise high enough to flood basements on many of the mobile homes. And if the area was to flood right now, this waste and its smell would end up in some basements. Residents are not pleased with the responses received from Seafreeze, the Department of Environment, or the Town Council concerning this problem. As one resident pointed out, we are taxpayers too. Residents of Burgeo may experience dirty water next week as a result of flushing out of the town's water system. Council workers will be flushing out water lines from Tuesday to Friday of this coming week. The water lines will be flushed out in sections to prevent loss of water as much as possible, but residents will experience a drop in pressure and dirty water as a result. Council is flushing out the lines as a result of complaints of dirty water from some local residents. The Town Council apologizes to residents for any inconvenience this may cause. Residents had a chance to go out and get some fresh fish this past weekend. The recreational cod fishery opened on Friday for this weekend only. By the time the sun came over the horizon on Saturday morning, many of those taking advantage of the food fishery were already on the water, some for their second day. Although there were a few fish being caught, anyone who took part in the fishery last year was quick to tell you that the fish aren't nearly as plentiful as they were last year. Even though the fish may not have been as plentiful as they were last year, it didn't stop both young and old from trying their hand at it.
Hey, I got my first fish on, man!
Oh no!
Oh!
One thing is for sure, however, there was no trouble to see another boat while you were out fishing. It seemed, however, that the seagulls were just as happy, if not happier, than humans that the food fishery was open. Stay with us for Off the Rack, community events, and the BBS Playbill. All that after this.
Just look at her. What a difference. Till a few months ago, we thought kidney dialysis was her only chance. But then a kidney donor was found. Someone took the time to sign a donor card and tell their family their wishes. Please, discuss organ donation with your family and sign a donor card today. You'll give someone like Michelle a second chance.
This message was brought to you by the Kidney Foundation of Canada and your local station.
Off the Rack. With the installation of the power line to Burgeo a few years back, there was no longer a need for the powerhouse which was located behind Scotiabank. This past week as we scanned our tape racks, we came across a video of the removal of the old powerhouse. Here's a look back now to August 1992. This building provided the electricity in Burgeo for many years before the addition of the power line from the hydro plant in Bay d'Espoir, which was installed a few years back. This past week, Manual's Construction came in to start the removal of our house. This past week, workers removed the offices that were built onto the building a few years back.
Good evening, and welcome to the community event segment of tonight's broadcast. I'm Rhonda Green. Registration for students at both Adjay Matthews School and St. John Central High for this school year will take place on Tuesday, September the 1st at 1 p.m. BBS is now taking bookings for TV bingos for this coming season, September to August. If you would like to book a bingo, please contact Dave at the BBS office. Remember to book early for the best dates. If your group or organization has an upcoming event planned, we will be happy to advertise it for you. You can contact the BBS office by Wednesday of each week to have items included in this portion of our broadcast. That concludes the community event segment of tonight's program. See you next week.
BBS Playbill. Tune in on Wednesday at 7 p.m. for a video from the Osteoporosis Society of Canada entitled The Silent Thief. And I'll be here again next week with This Week in Review. For This Week in Review, I'm Dave Cooper. Good night.